Our next guest brings over 12 years of experience in leading system implementations across various domains. Her session, titled A Medical Device Manufacturer's Journey from Paper to Digital, will shed light on the transformative journey towards digital excellence in the medical manufacturing landscape. I'm happy to introduce Tonniele Naeher, MES Program Manager at Integer. Tonniele?
Yeah, thank you. Give the clicker. Thank you. Hi, thank you so much for having me today, and I'm very excited to share with you Integer's journey, where we've been going with our MES implementation. It's practical knowledge. I hope that you'll find some benefit to, especially if you're just embarking upon your MES journeys. And I welcome you to find me later on if you have additional questions. I'm happy to answer them, at least from our perspective and what we know. So those are just the objectives for today. I'm going to walk through our journey, highlight some benefits from, of course, the ROI perspective, but more importantly, I think today what I want to focus on is all the other stuff. So that'll be an interesting, I think, point for you guys to see and some lessons learned that we've gone through. Integer Holdings Corporation, that's my company. I've been there for almost 10 years at this point. And we manufacture the largest medical devices, or one of the largest medical device manufacturers in the world. We are an OEM, an original equipment manufacturing company. And our main focus and vision is to enhance the lives of our patients. So, in addition to that, of doing different medical device products such as catheters, we do stents, we do batteries for pacemakers. We also develop high-end niche applications for the military and environmental markets. Here we go. As you would with any project, you start, especially a large one, with the typical problem statement. What it is that you're trying to gain by installing something like an MES system. So when we really broke that down, what we discovered is just the complexity of keeping our production records basically the record keeping of it, the complexity of it is increasing. And being able to keep up with this is difficult. We operate manually. We operate using paper and manual processes for manufacturing. Many of our processes are prone, because they're paper-based, they're prone to data errors. We have hard copy paper management and storage issues because it's costly and there's a lot of it. Tracking and tracing and reporting on our products is cumbersome and time-consuming. And with company growth, as we're growing through the years, the demand on us has continued to rise. And doing this in our environment of current processes with this manual process is just not sustainable. So we decided we were going to install the MES system at one of our pilot sites. And what we ended up doing is we developed what our charter deliverables would look like. It's a lot. We realize that now, and there's actually less here than what we originally embarked upon doing. We wanted a fully configured MES system. We wanted workflow alerts and checks. We wanted our template configured using out-of-the-box functionality as much as possible. We wanted to develop minimal reports, but specifically EDHR, Electronic Device History Record. We needed integration with our ERP system and the ability to view our SOPs, our drawings, and our different JBSs. We needed integration with barcode scanners, document scanners, our label printers, and our break strength gauge machines. We had more on the list, but as we went through the project, some of the scope had to fall out just because there was too much, and we realized that after we started down the journey. We have work-in-progress labels printing out of MES, and that was one of our goals. We had to purchase and install all the technology, all the mounts, all of the things that need to be there to support the MES system. Additionally, the network updates and any data drops that you'd have to put in that aren't there already. The master validation plan and related activities. So because we're a medical device manufacturing company, of course, and Michael was touching on this is kind of our lives too, what he mentioned. We have to validate the system. So we had to have an MVP and all the activities surrounding that to make sure that we were within regulation. And one of the things we decided to do is try to make this a global plan, because we are not just one site that we're implementing now. We have almost 20 manufacturing sites that we will install MES at some point. Change management plan. It was touched upon earlier. The change at a plant for installing an MES is huge. If you think about the magnitude of just operators on the floor, we have over 700 at our pilot site. That is a lot of people to go through change. They're using paper today for everything that they do, and now they have to go use an IT system to do the same thing tomorrow. So I have a little bit of detail to share on that. Training, documentation, and delivery of that training, that is part of that. So it's a huge effort that you don't want to ignore. And then enabling our NCR and CAPA process controls. One of the things we really needed to have was electronic signature so that we can begin, hold, and release our products as needed. So that was a key selling point for us as well. So what I'll do is walk you through our journey. In 2019, Integer decided to do the evaluation and start off on the MES path. We did our RFP. We went through, we generated a pretty long RFP, I'm not going to lie. We sent it out to 10, 15 different vendors. We did the analysis and scoring. And then in 2020, we picked our top 3, and we said, okay, now we want to see what the systems can do. So we demoed those systems. They came to meetings, and we went through the whole thing. And we decided from that part, we would select our vendor, and we did. And we had a project kickoff in 2020. The only thing is, in 2021, we realized pretty quickly that the software we had selected wasn't a fit for us anymore. We were probably 5 to 6 months into the implementation process, and we realized the technology just wasn't fitting our needs. So we decided to pause, go back, evaluate what is it we need different, and then we went and pivoted to critical manufacturing. So at the very end of 2021, we did our project kickoff, or re-kickoff, then with critical. 2022 was really a year dedicated to all the work in process, everything we were trying to do to develop that template for our different areas at our pilot site, which is in Ireland. And the whole idea was to create the template so that we can keep that in a global mindset so we can deploy it across the enterprise at some point. And on top of that, we started the initial planning of developing our Center of Excellence. So we created a charter. What is it we want it to look like? And we're baby stepping through that process of what the COE is going to offer the company. Obviously, with one site, we're not fully a COE at this point, but over time, we're working through that. In 2023, this year, yay, we had our first go live early in Q1. So we have one area that's fully operational on MES right now. We have the remaining go-lives at the rest of the year. So we have the majority of the development done. Now we just need to go through our validation process, essentially. Our COE is continuing to be under development. We're designing for the future, so we're planning now how we're going to start our next site. The goal is to do that in 2024. So start the next site. We've picked a site that's very similar to our first site. We can leverage that template between the two. And working with that team with all the knowledge we have now, we compare to what we started with, what we know now, and then bringing that to the next site so they can start working on the things that they need to work on that we didn't know before. So, moving into the benefits. I know it's always about cost savings, ROI, and that is definitely a factor. When we built the business case for this, we were looking to reduce all the things up here, resources to collect and enter production data, right? There's so many people on the floor today managing paper, writing down things on paper. It's just not a value-add activity, especially if you have one plant, multiply that by almost 20. It's a lot of labor involved, time, costs that we can eliminate essentially with MES. The number of paperwork checks, because of our industry, We have in place lots of documentation checks to make sure that we are catching things before they get out of control, right? Making sure that it's not out the door at the wrong, with it being incorrect. Documentation is going to be a common theme across what you're going to see here today. Offsite storage, warehousing of paper records, we want to reduce that. The need for final documentation audit resources, because another check we got to put in there and audit it. Reduce our NCRs, our customer complaints. Reduce shipping and handling costs for returns coming back to us because we're sending things out that we shouldn't be. Rework and scrap, reducing that, and reducing the need to track and trace DHR information due to complaints. And lastly, the effort to compile process control records for our COAs. So with this said, we look at this, and it's a lot that we've been considering, and it's kind of like a template. What we do is we'll send it to our plants and start evaluating what their ROI can be, and a lot of these things are part of that scoring template for them. So here's actually a real-life example. I mentioned we have one pilot area that's actually using the system today. One of 4 of the full plant. We're looking at that as kind of the pilot because a lot of the things you just saw before on the deliverables is what we installed, so it's up and running. What we have found in just this one area, we have a 69% reduction in the time needed to perform our work order documentation tasks, and the reason is because we had all these checks that we had to do. We were able to eliminate those checks completely. Not all of them, but a majority of them. This came to a savings of approximately 4 FTEs annually. And because of that, we now are seeing a 25% reduction in machine downtime because the operators used to be working on paperwork, right, having to go and write down whatever it was. They weren't able to be running the machines. But now because those documentation tasks are gone, essentially, our machines are able to run a little bit more often, and efficiency has gone up by 1.1%. So this area alone is seeing now a savings of about $300K annually. Documentation improvements, like I said, it's going to be a common thread. Up to 25% of our NCRs today at their pilot location are due to documentation errors. Is it legible? Did you miss putting something in? Did you cross out the wrong box? Did you sign off on it? All those kinds of things. So with MES, we're hoping to eliminate a lot of that. Improved on-time delivery. So today it takes about 1 week to investigate any kinds of NCRs that are opened up. Because the product remains on hold, we have to quarantine it. It has to wait until the investigation's over. And with MES, we should be able to have improved traceability and then reduce the need to do investigations altogether related to documentation. And the last segment here is just showing you in the bottom here on the chart, today, about 122 minutes are spent doing all kinds of paperwork-related activities due to the manufacturing of our products, and this is in a particular area in our shipping area. And then tomorrow with MES, it's going to be under 20 minutes. So for us, a lot of the ROI coming out of this facility is due solely to documentation-related items and removing those where we can. Process control is another huge one for us. Today, operators have to go back, reference all their SOPs or documents, have it in their mind. We're going to leverage, and we are leveraging MES to walk them through the process. They don't have to remember anything. It takes them through. It's all pre-configured in there for them. And on top of it, they have to be a certified operator. So what will happen is, let's say an operator has gone out on leave, they come back, the training has changed, and they should have had an update. They try to go into MES, it's going to stop them. So we have put that control into the system as well, which is a huge benefit to us. And then they say, okay, I can't go do that. Now I need to get my training, and then they can come back and start the process. Additionally, all inspections are enforced at the correct steps to ensure sampling, that the sampling plan is fulfilled. And the ability to collect attribute variable data is required at the right process point. So the system walks them through that, and it requires them to collect the data when it's needed. Exception management. So today, all of our quality folks, what they do is they inspect every single work order that's coming through the pipeline there. What we hope to do, and we're expecting to do this with our next go live, is we're going to be operating using exceptions only. So the idea being is the system is controlling the process. So anything running out of spec, it will call it out, it will raise a protocol, and it will indicate that in a dashboard for the quality inspectors to go through identify that, and then they can go drill down as needed. There's no need for them to go check anything else because it ran like it was supposed to. It was, in the perfect state. Just in the cases, though, where things are out of spec or going off target is where it will highlight and illuminate that for the quality inspectors to go back and dig into further. That's going to be a huge time saving for us. I'm not going to claim to know all the steps going on here. This is our plasma welding setup today that we have in one of our areas. What's interesting to point out is how many steps are involved. Okay, they have to set up the plasma welder following this process. They go in, they look at the specification, they pull the paper document for that particular setup. They have to align it properly. They go in, put the information in on the machine. They go back, cross-check it, look at their work order, and they just verify that it's correct, and then they write it down. So tomorrow with MES, it's literally going to be this simple, where they go in and they just click on the area, they walk through, it tells them what the settings should be or their parameter, and they go in and they adjust it. Yep, I did that one, move to the next, I did that one. Once everything's all complete, then they can move on. They aren't allowed to set it up that's out of spec, so they can't move forward until this is complete. This is a huge win for us, which is the EDHR. Today, everything's on paper, as I mentioned before. Having this electronically at our fingertips where we can just push a button and see it in front of us digitally is enormous change to where we're going to be or where we are today. It has the predefined customized report. So this is an example of one of our reports. It shows everything happened during the life cycle of the product from cradle to grave. It also has an audit trail, so if someone made a change or anything else relevant to the manufacturing of that product, it's listed here for anyone that needs to review it. What's also nice is you can export this, you can put it in Excel, you can number crunch, whatever you need to do. But the reality is just having the data in the system, which is step one, is a huge benefit because now we're going to have this at our fingertips, so we can just pull queries and look for something that, maybe we want to know what's going on, and we had no visibility to that beforehand. Now we will, and it's a really exciting opportunity for us to start going down this path. These are the integrations that we installed. I mentioned them briefly in the deliverables section. We have an integration to our ERP system. This is our order and our inventory details. It's almost real time between the two systems. We have barcode scanners that are integrated with the MES. So this is to scan your work order. Also, if you do issuing, we issue with that. Our flatbed scanners integrated to the MES as well. This is to append any maybe paper documents that are still needed as part of that record that aren't in the MES. So we use that for that purpose. This is our work in progress printer for the labels that we put for the trays that will move throughout the facility, so intra-facility. And the pull string tester integration back to MES, so it can pull and extract the data off of the machine and then put it into the EDHR. So this is a benefit that it was touched on a little bit earlier, but we're starting to see this is really going to be almost like a marketing tool for us in keeping employees and engaged and excited about working at Integer. We're finding that, and this has happened in other situations, where the younger workforce coming in doesn't want to work with paper. If you don't have a system, something like that, they're either maybe not inclined to take the job, or if they do, they will leave pretty quickly. So this is becoming a huge factor for us, especially in this environment where hiring and getting your workforce up to speed and getting them on board is a tricky thing, and getting the talent is an issue as well. What we're finding is, and we know, and this isn't going to change, our processes today being in medical devices, they're rigid, they're complex. But tomorrow, because with the controls that we're able to put into the system, and it navigates you through the process, the system will guide the user into doing their job. Today we have hundreds of opportunities for clerical errors. Tomorrow there should be far less of them. And this contributes to the well-being of the associate, really, and their stress level in the office, essentially. When they go and they've had an issue, they get their hands slapped, right? They have to go through retraining. Who knows how many times that can happen? You don't want to just, send them on their way. You've invested in them. You want to keep them happy and keep them making good product. So with MES, this will really, I think, enhance that for them, for the associates. There's less retraining. And we think they're going to be more satisfied with their job. Today, the associates are expected to have laser focus and recall on the processes they're doing. We want them to be adding value where it's important, right? Not remembering things that maybe the system is telling them to do. So what we're expecting now is with MES, they can focus on other things and actually perform other activities in maybe more of their free time. So we're hoping MES is really going to be this tool to help us onboard and keep associates around longer at Integer. So what I have here is we went to different associates and then also the area that we implemented, and we solicited some feedback from them directly about what are the benefits for you. So leadership will say, okay, I want to see my ROI, but the reality is, what is it doing for them? This is Charlie. He's been with Integer at New Ross for a long time. I got his permission to have his picture here. What he's noting here is that MES guides him through the orders, and what he likes is he actually can see what was done in the previous shift before him, so he knows exactly where that order is at and what he needs now to do moving forward. So that's a huge benefit to him. And of course, legibility, that's a big deal. There's a couple other things here too, but the gist of the story is MES is going to make their lives easier, and there's actually excitement at the facility, so that's kind of the nice thing about it. This has gone a little bit out of order, but let me just finish up here with this benefits, last perspective of the shop floor associates. So the associates for this area that went live, they were a little resistant. They didn't know what to expect. They're using paper. They have to learn a whole new IT system. But today, after they've been using it now for several months, going back and asking them what their thoughts are, they wouldn't go back. They're more efficient, they enjoy it. They wouldn't even consider going back to paper. So that's a huge validation that what we're doing is the right thing. Today, they can't pick the wrong materials with MES because you scan your work order, you scan your material, and then if it's not the match, that after it's validated by MES, it won't let you move forward. Operators are finding quality issues immediately. In the past, what would happen is you might go home, you're off shift, an issue popped up. Now it's got to wait and off to the side or in quarantine until you happen to be back on shift, and who knows when that would be, a couple days or a week later. And it just waits there until you're back to go back and resolve the issue. Now they have to do it before they go home because it's caught before they've left the building. MES highlights today, and this is kind of an interesting one, inaccuracies that were always there that they didn't know anything about. So it's finding new things for them where they thought they were doing everything perfectly, and now they're questioning like, oh, geez, we must have been missing this in the past. And lastly, the machine switchover is quicker with MES, and there's just less paperwork involved, so the operators see that as a benefit for them. They're able to get up and running, and they can be more productive quicker as well. Okay, so now to the lessons learned. So the way we decided to roll this out was in 4 phases, essentially. We're calling them waves. And this caused a little bit of resource constraint issues for us, especially as the project moves on and it's not on time. It's moving past its original go-live dates, if you will, original deliverable dates. So what we started seeing is we started getting this stack up because we have so many resources and they're working on certain things, but you can see in the red, we started having all this overlap of the same resources working on all these different activities. So that's one thing to consider is how you want to do your rollout. You may want to go back and reconsider that. So, the phased approach is interesting because we have so much we're trying to do there, but it definitely put us in this situation that I would change for the next rollout. We had to add additional resources just because we didn't have enough. But this concept of diminishing returns with adding resources to a project that's in full swing, they don't know anything about, you have to take other resources that are working on the project off, they have to work with this person directly, get them up to speed, takes about 3 months. you're affecting your productivity either way, but it's something nonetheless we had to do. So kind of the lesson learned is if you can really go and do a deep dive on the resources needed from the beginning, get them involved initially, don't bring them in later. We ended up adding a modeler as well as a business analyst down the road. Development, testing, and modeling. So you saw a lot today on the agile methodology. Moving into this, Integer is typically a waterfall shop, I would say, with all the implementations that we've done in the past. But the thing that we've noticed has been happening with us is because it's iterative, and the whole idea is to have this base minimal viable product that you can just push out and start using and then go in and adjust because it's not working right, and you can just do it on the fly. That concept just doesn't work very well. It's not married well with a medical device manufacturer, the ones that are in regulated industries. The reality is I need a complete final product, right, before I can then make sure it's tested, it's whole, and it's ready to move on to the validation step. Because you don't want to be moving that on prematurely, because what will end up happening is you're going to have deviations, you're going to have issues, and you have to go back and resolve them. And then now you're getting yourself into a quandary. The idea for us is really to get it over the finish line into validation almost perfect, and should be perfect from our perspective. So what this has done for us is we've had additional timeline and budget increases because of this, just because we've been stuck in this. What happens is we're going through, we develop, we test it, and because it's not perfect, we can't just push it out. We have to redo it, retest it. We go through these rework cycles. This is one of the struggles that we've had. Another thing is we were never really anticipating the amount of testing that we had to do. So we knew we had a test, but we ended up having put a lot more testing in so that we were able to go into that validation stage, like I said, almost perfect. So there's unit testing. We had to put in a regression cycle of testing. We had to also do, of course, the typical sit testing and whatnot. But this has also been adding to the project schedule timeline because we had to put in additional cycles of this to make sure and ensure the validation is going to be run smoothly. The modeling effort, we underestimated that. And I think the take-home message here on this one is, it depends how controlled you want your system to be. You want to have tons of data collections, which is one thing we wanted. What level of control? How many products do you manufacture? It all goes into the modeling and the setup of the system. So from our perspective, we have put a lot of control into the system, so our modeling timeline has expanded on us, and it's taken more and more resources to get it done. Reporting. I would say the key point here for you all, the take-home message is, don't build tons and tons of reports right off the bat. You don't really know the data you're going to have, especially if it's your first implementation. You don't know what type of reports to build. Sorry, excuse me. What we try to do is we did go to the leadership team at the plant and ask them, what kind of reports would you want to see in MES? They didn't know. They came back empty-handed. Can I get a glass of water? Oh, is some up here? Yeah, thank you. A little tickle in my throat. And what we found was that probably wasn't the best route to take because we knew they weren't really going to know what's coming out of the system. They need to be able to use it for a little while first, and then after that, maybe when they have the data at their fingertips, they'd be able to identify, okay, yeah, this is the kind of reporting I need to see. So don't waste the time up front doing all that requirements gathering, understanding all the reports. Just build some typical reports. And what I mean by that is your EDHR, some inventory reports perhaps, and maybe some quality reports that you would need, like we're doing that exceptions management report, which we have iterated a couple times already. So got to keep those in check a little bit. Training. Training is not easy. Rolling it out to an entire facility is a lot of work. There's cost involved. How you actually do the training weighs into the amount of funding you're going to need, because you're taking those essentially operators off the floor to do training. so they're not being productive. Do surveys after you've done the training. And the reason why I say that is because you want to hear from their perspective how it's working. How did the training help them get better maybe and learn MES better? What would they do differently? And it's funny, we asked them, this is one of the questions, when you have issues today, who do you usually ask if you have an MES problem? They go directly to their coworker. They don't go to the documents we've gave them. They don't go to their supervisor. They go to their peer standing right there. So that's important, and that actually ties into some of the ways we've approached different things moving forward. One of the things we're doing is, when we did our first go live, we did not engage our operations team or make them own it. Like, you have to make the operations team own it. Otherwise, as a project team, we're just going to own it. So the idea being, get them engaged. This part is the trainers. Sorry, excuse me. The training team is critical to the success of the MES rollout. So building this team of trainers to manage and conduct the training sessions, there's a lot to go on in the training. You have to build the schedules, if you have shift work, thinking about the holidays, and there's just so much going into that ties into a successful training plan. If you get the operators involved, the trainers involved early and part of the plan, it will just go much more smoothly. Go live. So we had this idea, and we should, to support the MES rollout, because we're essentially 24/7 at this plant. The project team was going to operate in the same capacity, supporting it 24/7 for about 3 weeks. It burned out the team. It was too much. They were on call. So what we realized is we needed to move that ownership over to the operations team, like I said before. So the training team is part of the operations team, and now to a team of super users, essentially. People that were these others' peers, people that we could up-train on MES, give them some troubleshooting skills, give them some advanced knowledge in MES, and now they can be the level 1 support for us, instead of coming to us for everything. So that's what we're doing for our next go live, is we're owning or sending that ownership over to this team. They're to support, and they escalate issues to us, as opposed to us doing all of the consulting for all the issues on the floor. We've had a few successes. Things are going well. The team is well structured and organized, and it's going great. But the added benefit is having and seeing some of these benefits. So if you're rolling out to multiple sites, just keeping that global mindset, being able to take what you've done in one place and port it to the next and the next. That has really been, I think, a benefit. We still have to play it out a little bit more, but the fact that we're able to walk into our next site and say, okay, you need to do all these things, this is what you have to prepare for, has been really good for us. Having a cohesive, cross-functional, motivated team with top talent is key to success. I think that's a no-brainer, but you have to have people who are go-getters. They have to be, ones who are able to drive and push forward, have to work and collaborate well. Really, that talent is critical. If we didn't have the team that we had today, all of the effort, all of the things we've had to do to make it to where we are, it would not have gotten this far or been this successful. We have installed badging on the shop floor as well in these areas that are live. For general situations where you may be logging in once or twice a day, maybe it's okay, great. It's nice to have. But we have situations where we have operators who are actually manning multiple machines during their shift, maybe 7 machines. So they're logging in and out like 80 times a day. Having them doing that with their username, password, or even just a password is a lot of work. So we've gone and done the badging route and automated it that way for them. They just go up, click, badge, pull out, and they're all set, and they're into their system right where it last left off. Another benefit that we have rolled out is with our new onboards. So once you get everything set up and for the existing associates, then you got to worry about continuing, moving forward, keeping the lights on, right? So how do we manage that with now setting up all of these MES accounts for new people coming in? What we do is we have a bot that goes through, and for the new Ross facility, if there was an onboard, it auto-generates the MES account with the right role or privilege, And the account's there, essentially, waiting for them when they're ready to log in. The last point here is a change champions team. The change has been a lot, right? And you want to have a positive vibe. You want people to be excited about it. You want people to have information about it. So making sure that that's getting, spread across the facility and getting everyone on board is a huge effort. So we created a change champions team, which is representative of stakeholders across the site. And we attend monthly meetings, and we talk about challenges, word on the street, what they're concerned about. And we course correct based on that. We will maybe send out a communication because maybe there's a miscommunication out there, or I'll send out an updated timeline because they feel like they're in the dark on something. But it's been a real benefit for us to go along that path and use the Change Champions team to help keep things on target for the associates so that they're coming along for the ride in the right direction. So just high level here in summary, the benefits are many. We feel that ROI is a given. We're going to have to follow up on that, but there's so many other things that come from the system, and there's so many things that we have yet to find, which we're excited about. The employee piece is a huge deal for us. We're going to continue to follow that one forward. And then as we complete our first rollout, right, we're taking this, all the lessons learned as like a toolkit to the next sites, thinking about the template, moving it in a global fashion across, the enterprise. We're leveraging this so that we can be repeatable, we can make better decisions for the next time, we can just keep doing this and getting better and better at it like a well-oiled machine at the end. So yeah, not to, recapitulate everything that I said, that's my summary. There you have it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tonnielle, for sharing your paperless journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of the event.